The trade policies of former President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden towards China have been marked by a common goal: to confront China's economic practices and reduce the United States' reliance on Chinese imports. Despite sharing this overarching objective, their strategies differ significantly in implementation and focus. Trump's approach has been characterized by its aggressive and sweeping measures, including the imposition of broad tariffs on a wide range of Chinese goods. In contrast, Biden has taken a more measured and targeted approach, maintaining many of Trump's tariffs, but also introducing specific increases in areas critical to U.S. economic and security interests. Historical context. To understand the current trade dynamics between the U.S. and China, it is essential to revisit the pivotal year of 2001, when China joined the World Trade Organization, WTO. This event marked a significant turning point in global trade relations. China's entry into the WTO was anticipated with a mix of optimism and caution. For China, it represented an opportunity to integrate more fully into the global economy and access new markets. For the rest of the world, particularly the U.S., it meant the potential for cheaper goods and a more robust trading partner. However, the ensuing years revealed a complex reality. The Chinese economy experienced enormous growth, driven by substantial foreign investment and a surge in exports. Many of these exports were produced by foreign-invested enterprises that utilized China as a manufacturing hub. This period saw U.S. imports from China grow more than fivefold, reaching a peak of over $560 billion in 2022. Simultaneously, the U.S. began to experience a decline in manufacturing employment, a trend that many economists link to the opening of trade with China, a phenomenon often referred to as the China shock. This decline fueled a political and economic narrative that became central to Trump's campaign and subsequent administration. Trump's policies. During his presidency, Donald Trump adopted a radically different approach to trade with China compared to his predecessors. His administration's cornerstone policy was the imposition of tariffs on approximately $360 billion worth of Chinese imports in 2018. These tariffs targeted a broad array of goods, from electronics to toys to apparel, fundamentally altering the landscape of U.S. China trade relations. Trump's justification for these tariffs was grounded in the belief that China was engaging in unfair trade practices, including intellectual property theft and state subsidies that gave Chinese companies an unfair advantage. The tariffs were intended to penalize China for these practices and protect American industries and jobs. In his rhetoric and policies, Trump often emphasized the severity of the economic threat posed by China. He did not shy away from using provocative language, describing China's economic practices as raping the American economy. His administration's approach was uncompromising, with Trump making it clear that he was willing to escalate the trade conflict if necessary. He proposed additional measures, including a 200% tax on certain imports and a 10% levy on all global imports, which could rise to 60% for Chinese goods. Biden's policies. Upon taking office, President Joe Biden faced the challenge of navigating the complex trade landscape inherited from the Trump administration. Biden chose to retain many of the existing tariffs, signaling a continuity in the tough stance towards China. However, his administration has also sought to refine and target these measures more precisely. One of the key initiatives under Biden has been the effort to build a robust clean energy industry within the United States. This goal has led to increased scrutiny of China's role in the global supply chain for clean energy products. In May, Biden elevated tariffs on a range of Chinese imports, including electric vehicles, steel, aluminum products, and solar cells. The rationale behind these increases is to counteract China's heavy subsidies and prevent the dumping of cheap products that could undermine U.S. manufacturing. Biden's approach reflects a broader strategy of targeted industrial policy. The administration aims to bolster domestic production in critical sectors, such as clean energy, semiconductors, and other high-tech industries. This strategy involves not only protective tariffs, but also substantial investments in research, development, and infrastructure to enhance the competitiveness of American industries. Economic impact. The imposition of tariffs has significant implications for both the U.S. and Chinese economies. tariffs function as a tax on imported goods, which can lead to higher prices for consumers and disruptions in supply chains. The debate over who ultimately bears the cost of tariffs, importers, exporters, or consumers, remains contentious. Economic evidence suggests that the tariffs introduced during the Trump administration were largely passed on to American consumers, leading to higher prices for a wide range of goods. This impact is particularly pronounced for low-income households, who spend a larger proportion of their income on basic goods and are therefore more vulnerable to price increases. Middle-income households are also affected, though to a lesser extent, while the wealthiest Americans feel the impact the least. Global trade dynamics. The U.S. China trade tensions have broader implications for global trade dynamics. As the U.S. adopts a more protectionist stance, China has sought to strengthen its trade relations with other regions, particularly Europe. The European Union, EU, represents a critical constituency in this context, often acting as a swing vote between the U.S. and China. While the EU shares some concerns about China's economic practices, it has generally been more reluctant to adopt the confrontational approach favored by the U.S. European policymakers, have emphasized the importance of maintaining open trade channels and avoiding a full-scale trade war. This nuanced stance highlights the complexity of global trade relations and the challenges of aligning international policies. Future outlook. Looking ahead, the trajectory of U.S. trade policy towards China will be shaped by the outcome of the upcoming elections. Both Trump and Biden have articulated a vision of reducing reliance on Chinese imports and strengthening domestic industries. However, their methods and priorities differ, reflecting their broader political philosophies and economic strategies. Trump's approach is likely to continue emphasizing broad and aggressive measures, potentially escalating tariffs and expanding their scope. Biden, on the other hand, is expected to pursue a more targeted and strategic approach, focusing on specific sectors and leveraging industrial policy to enhance U.S. competitiveness. Regardless of the election's outcome, it is clear that the era of unrestrained free trade with China is over. Both candidates acknowledge the need for a more balanced and strategic approach to trade, one that protects American jobs and industries while addressing the challenges posed by China's economic practices. Conclusion: the trade policies of Trump and Biden towards China represent a significant shift in U.S. economic strategy. Both leaders recognize the challenges posed by China's rise and the need for a robust response. Their differing approaches reflect broader debates about the best way to protect American interests and ensure a fair and competitive global trading system. Trump's aggressive tariffs and broad measures aim to confront China head-on, while Biden's targeted approach seeks to build domestic strength and resilience in key industries. The economic impact of these policies, particularly on American consumers and businesses, remains a critical consideration. As the global trade landscape continues to evolve, the U.S. will need to navigate complex relationships and competing interests. The outcome of the upcoming elections will play a crucial role in shaping the future of U.S.-China trade relations and the broader global economy. In summary, the trade policies of Trump and Biden reflect a fundamental shift in U.S. economic strategy towards China. Both leaders aim to confront China's economic practices and reduce reliance on Chinese imports, but their approaches differ significantly in terms of implementation and focus. This shift marks the end of unrestrained free trade with China and the beginning of a more balanced and strategic approach to global trade relations. The future of U.S.-China trade relations will depend on the outcome of the upcoming elections and the ongoing debates about the best way to protect American interests and ensure a fair and competitive global trading system.